Well lads, what's happening? Dylan here, or DC Collects / DC Cards. Today I don't have a pack opening video, which is the first time ever I've uploaded content to this channel and haven't opened anything, but got something different today. Just wanted to show off my Baskin Robbins One Piece collection that I bought a few weeks ago. So you can see there's two more on the next page. Two more there. So basically the whole purpose of this video is I'm going to go through each card individually, and I've got a kind of an average of each card individually from recent sales on eBay, and basically I'm going to add each one and the average of each one and combine them all at the end and see if I made a profit or loss from this collection. I paid €180 for this collection a few weeks ago, which might seem a bit steep, but I think like the cards actually sell quite well individually. So without further ado, let's crack into it. We'll start with none other than Monkey D. Luffy, the future Pirate King. So basically with some of these cards, some cards have maybe 2 or 3, 4, 5 recent sales, but this particular Luffy card had 5 previous sales on eBay. So they're €21, 31.83, 31.83, 31.73 and 19.10. Add them all together, divide by 5, and the average for this Monkey D. Luffy card was €27.10. And as you can see, like, the artwork on these cards are just nothing on the back. But look, as you can see, like, the cards are pretty nice, and even on eBay I've seen some are actually graded by PSA, so definitely a nice few cards to add to your collection. Another nice card for the collection. So recent sales on this Zorro card, I only found 3, and they were for 17.19, 20.16 and 23.24. Divide by 3, so the average of this Zorro card is €20.20. Another decent one for the collection. So next up is the Navigator Nami. So Nami, I found 3 recent sales on eBay, and Nami was actually one of the more expensive ones. So one sale was 74.19, another was 53.07, and the last one that I could find was another 74.19, divided by 3. So the average cost of this Nami card is €67.15. So next up is Sanji. Like the previous Straw Hats, they are all wearing their egghead attire for anyone who has seen the anime. Sanji was average price has been on the cheaper side, especially compared to Nami, but I found 4 previous sales for Sanji: 13.04, 20.16, 23.24 and 18.03, divided by 4, and the average cost of this Sanji card was 18.62. So not the worst, especially considering Sanji is one of the main characters in the anime. Next up, another member of the Straw Hats, and probably, I suppose it's fair to say, the cutest member of the Straw Hats, Chopper. My partner doesn't watch One Piece, but she loves Chopper. It's probably the only character, as well as Luffy, that she can actually name. So yeah, I suppose similar to kind of Luffy, I was able to find 5 previous sales on this Chopper card. So the first was 25.47, 31.83, 37.03, 27.60, 16.72 divided by 5. So the average cost of this Chopper card was €27.73. So a bit more expensive than the Zorro and Sanji card, but as expected, because it is Chopper, in fairness. So keeping with the Straw Hats, Nico Robin. I was only able to actually find 2 previous sales for Nico Robin. One was for 21.01, and the second was a bit more expensive, 42.35. So divided by 2. So the average cost of this Robin card was 31.68. It's just kind of unusual that sometimes some of the cards had 5, some of them had 2. I think 2 was the least amount of recent sales, but look, I know there's a big jump between the 2, but so average 31.68. So next up is God Usopp. Usopp tends to be kind of like Marmite amongst the One Piece community. You either love him or you absolutely hate him. Brave warrior to see. Hopefully Oda gives him some form of power up, because I don't know, it's kind of kind of annoying how weak he is, but I get it. It kind of makes sense with his character. You know, he's the weakest, but he still puts himself in harm's way, which I suppose technically doesn't make him a brave warrior to see. But for Usopp, I could only find 3 recent sales. Bit on the cheaper side compared to previous straw hats. The first one was 10.0 or 10.19, 20.06, 18.03 divided by 3. So the average cost of this Usopp card is €16.01. Next up is Frankie, similar to Usopp, one of the kind of more cheaper straw hats, I would say. For those of you who have watched the anime, the biggest disappointment with Frankie's character is actually the change in voice actor. You know, I'm still not used to it. Even watching the new episode yesterday, I'm just not used to Frankie's voice actor. Obviously the older one was a lot better, but look, I suppose we're just gonna have to get used to it. So I could only find 3 recent sales on Frankie. One for 10.19, 20.06, 18.03 divided by 3, and the average cost of Frankie is 16.10. Next up is one of the more mysterious members of the Straw Hats in Brook. I feel like there's a lot we don't know about Brook in the anime and the manga, and I feel like we're kind of getting to a stage now, especially with what's going on in the manga, that we're going to find out a lot more about Brook. But yeah, so I was able to find 3 recent sales on Brook, 12.56, 18.07 and 20.06 divided by 3, and the average cost of this Brook card is €16.89. Next up is the last member that have joined the Straw Hats in Jinbei, former Warlord Jinbei. So previous sales with Jinbei, I could find 3, 16.24, 20.06 and 16.98 divided by 3, and the average cost of Jinbei is €17.76, which is just a little bit more than some of the previous Straw Hats. Next up is Luffy's brother, not by blood, Sabo. Sabo, I could also find 3 previous sales on Sabo. One was 16.24, 13.52 and 20.06 divided by 3 is 16.61. I think it's 20.06, but my handwriting is pretty poor, so I actually don't know if it's a 6 or an 8, but I'll go with 6. So average price of Sabo is 16.61. Next up we have the character in One Piece who was probably, I would say, the most aura. The Child of Destiny, Shanks. We're going to see a lot more of Shanks in the upcoming arcs in One Piece. He's probably going to be one of the main characters, I would say. Judging from what I read online, Shanks is going to be up there with Luffy in terms of importance to the story. So previous sales for Shanks, 17.19, 18.03, 23.24 divided by 3, and the average cost of this Shanks card is 19.49. Next up we have none other than Boa Hancock, former Warlord Boa Hancock, who is obsessed with our future Pirate King Luffy. Boa Hancock is more on the pricier side, similar to Nami. So 4 of the previous sales for Boa Hancock, I found 63.67, another 63.67, I found a 38.21 and a 73.23 divided by 4. So the average price of this Boa Hancock card is €59.70. So next up is one of my favourite characters, Trafalgar D-Law. D is quite important if you're caught up to the manga or the anime. If you know, you know. Hopefully Trafalgar Law teams up with our boy Luffy more as the anime and the manga continues. I haven't really seen a lot of Law post Wano, bar one particular scene, which I won't say what it was because I don't want to spoil it for people who haven't caught up, but great scene with another big character in the anime. So I could find 4 previous sales for Law. First was 16.24, 18.03, 20.06 and 18.03 divided by 4, and the average price for Law is €18.09. Next up we have none other than Marshall D. Teach, also known as Blackbeard, who is current Yonko. Blackbeard is obviously going to have quite a significant role in the later acts in One Piece. I feel like he's going to be Luffy's final battle in One Piece. There's a lot more to come from Blackbeard, and I think, to be fair, out of all the characters in One Piece. I think he is the most pirate character, if that makes sense. So I could find 5 previous sales for Blackbeard. One for 17.19, 18.03, 20.06, 10.07, and 15. Jeez, my writing's so bad. I don't know if that's a 3 or a 5. I'll say 3. So 15.33. So divided by 5, and the average cost of this Blackbeard card is €16.14, which is one of the more cheaper ones. Kuma and his adopted daughter Jewelry Boney. Anyone that knows or anyone has seen Kuma's backstory, if you're up to date with the anime or the manga obviously, you know that Kuma's backstory is one of the saddest backstories in the entire anime. There is quite a few sad backstories, but I'm telling you, if you haven't seen Kuma's backstory, it is by far, I would say, the saddest so far. There's probably more to come, but so with the Kuma and Boney card, I could find 3 previous sales. First one was 16.24, second was 18.03, the third was 20.06 divided by 3 is €18.11 for Kuma and Boney. Next we have the Admiral Kizaru. Not a good character. There was a lot of character development if you've seen the Egghead arc. Again, I won't try to say too much in case people haven't seen it, but with this Kizaru card, I could only find 2 previous sales. So first was €16.24, the second was 20.06 divided by 2, and the average cost of this Kizaru card is €18.15. So next up we got the Cross Guild, which consists of a very complex trio. So we have Crocodile, which is a bit of a boss character. We have Mihawk, which we don't really know anything about, to be honest. You know, there's so many theories floating around it these days about who his parents are and what his goals are. But I'm very interested to see what goes on with Mihawk. And then we have none other than Buggy the Goat, who also quite has a mysterious kind of backstory that we don't know who he is really, where he came from. There's a lot of theories as well about Buggy and who his potential parents are, but until the goat Oda tells us, I guess we're going to have to keep guessing. So with this card, there was 3 previous sales. One was 20.06, 23.51, 16.98 divided by 3, and the average price of this Cross Guild card is €20.18. So next up is Vegapunk and Lilith. I don't want to really say too much because Egghead is only finished a few weeks ago, and I know some people mightn't have caught up that might be watching this, so I don't want to spoil it. But those of you who watched Egghead will know a lot about these 2 characters, and yeah, especially Vegapunk. Vegapunk is quite an interesting character. So with this Lilith and Vegapunk card, I found 3 previous sales: 18.03, €9.06, and 16.24 divided by 3, which gives you €14.44, which makes this one of the more cheaper cards of the set. So last but not least, Kaku and Rob Lucci. I think we got a first introduction of these 2 characters during the Water 7 arc, I think. I suppose throughout the entire anime, Rob Lucci's nemesis has been Luffy. His previous fight with Luffy in the Egghead arc was pretty dope. I suppose pretty cool, calculated character, which showed a bit of humanity in one of the more recent arcs. But I suppose going back to the value of the card, I was able to find 4 previous sales on eBay: 16.24, 20.06, 18.03, 16.94 divided by 4, and the average price of this card is €17.82. So now that I've shown every card individually and how much they cost on average based off previous sales on eBay, which I feel like is a kind of a fair way of kind of judging how much cards will cost, I think is probably, I would say, one of the most accurate means of kind of figuring out how much a card costs. So I just have it here, so having added up all the costs of each card individually, so just to recap, I paid €180 for this set. In total, if I was to sell each card individually at the prices that I've kind of shown in this video, I would make a total of €477.97, minus the 180 that I paid, which comes to a total profit of €297.09, which is insane. You know, hopefully now the maths are right. I think they are, because I double checked, but you'd never know. So yeah, I think all in all, I think it was quite a successful purchase. I kind of I saw it like a few weeks ago, when I was kind of scrolling, and I just thought, look, I'm always in the hunt for something different. I quite like buying kind of obscure collectibles or cards that are a bit different, you know. So when I saw them, I thought 180 was a bit steep, but I had seen that other purchases for the set were a lot more. There was one or two that might have been less, but I thought 180 seemed okay. And now that I have kind of done the maths, I think it's extremely good purchase. And to be fair, like, just get the collection up here now again. I think it is fair to say, like, it is a pretty dope collection, in fairness. Like, yeah, all in all, very happy with the purchase. Made a nice little profit, have a nice little collection, and yeah, I'm buzzing with that. So, like always, we'll take it.